from a community leadership standpoint, like what do you think communities like Trenton would help them revitalize, economically in different ways as well?
Well, I think, I was just with Brother David Dinkins, who grew up in Trenton. We're just in New York, just on Friday night. He received a wonderful award, and they were kind enough to give me an award. We were talking about growing up in Trenton. Trenton has produced David Dinkins, first black mayor of New York City. It produced Leon Higginbotham, who really should have been on the Supreme Court instead of Clarence Thomas. He's one of the great legal minds of his day. He's passed now, but Trentonian to the core. Of course, you got the righteous teachers
Yes, yes.
come out of Trenton too. Love those brothers. But more than anything else, there has to be a jobs program, and there has to be an education program that's not just about charter schools and privatizing schools. Those are the two things. Without serious jobs created, and it has to be a priority. It's got to be a priority in the way in which we bailed out the banks. Because the problem of Trenton and other places is that you don't have enough jobs with a living wage. So folk got to go underground in order to survive, you know. And I see the consequences. I was just at Wagner a week before last, 2 weeks before that was a Garden State. And I go to the maximum security there, right there in Trenton itself, the prison, and you see it. The brothers had no money, they had no jobs, they went underground, they got tied into drugs, they got tied into the shadow network, trying to make money, trying to survive, dropping out of school, ending up with records and living lives fearful of confinement and captivity because the police forever own them because of their records and so forth. Lucky to get driver's license, got to go back to court, then they fall in love, then they can't pay with the child support, and it goes on and on and on and on and on, you see. And we're talking generations now. And this is what I mean by the neglect and the abandonment of poor communities. You call them hoods, but they used to be neighborhoods. There used to be places where people could actually find some love and empathy. But now these hoods, with all of this chasing after the cash and money and bullets flying, the survival of the slickest, and folk get caught in the prison industrial complex. And so we have got to change our priorities. That's really what we're talking about. We've got to shift away from big banks, big military, and big business to everyday people's jobs with a living wage, houses that are decent, and educational systems that are high quality for everybody.
Hmm. Okay. And switching gears, Dr. West, I know, on the public scene, you're asked a lot of, very socially conscious, intellectual matters and questions and things like that sort. But on a lighter note, I mean, when you're letting your hair down, I mean, I know you have an afro, you don't really let your hair down, but what do you do, for fun? Like, you go to movies, or what
Well,
do you do?
just finished this album with Bootsy Collins, one of the great geniuses of our day, called The Funk Capital of the World. It dropped last week. And we got Snoop Dogg and Chuck D and Ice Cube on there. We got Bobby Womack. We got George Duke, the jazz musician, Sheila E. from Prince's crew. It's one of the greatest albums made in the last 25 years or so. It's serious music, instruments played, and I spent a lot of time with Brother Boots because I spent a lot of time on doing records. We did Terence Blanchard's The Choice, one of the best jazz albums, 2009 in France. That was did spoken word. I've got my own three independent albums themselves. Never Forget with Prince and Talib Kweli and KRS-One and Rod Digger and M1 of Dead Prayers and Lenny Williams, and formerly Tower of Power. Same is true. Did the little thing with John Mellencamp. This little thing right here, which is nice. Uh, we did this thing with Joan Baez. The Cornel West Theory. It was a group in D.C., the #1 hip-hop group in D.C. They was kind enough to name the group after me. We did Second Rome. We got The Shape of Hip Hop to Come. That'll be out in July. We're going to be at the SOB in New York in the middle of July. So I spend a lot of time with the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of time with the musicians because, you see, in the end, It's really the musicians who have helped get us through. They've been the freest to tell the truth, so that folk won't fall prey to the dynamics of power, and really try to be truthful about those in power. And I wish we had more young musicians who had the courage of the Curtis Mayfields and the Aretha Franklins and the Gil Scott Herons and the Last Poets and
Mm-hmm.
those truth tellers in the 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? We got too many young musicians today who they're just copies. They're not originals. They're more echoes rather than voices. And they just want to make money. They don't want to make the world a better place. They're more
Mm-hmm.
concerned just about themselves personally rather than about the community collectively. And there are some. We got Lupe, of course, Brother Lupe Fiasco. He was just here in my class a couple of months ago. He's part of the tradition I'm talking about. And there's some others, Anthony Hamilton and some others, and Jill Scott and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. But we just don't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have enough. I'll put a little pressure on my dear brother Jay-Z. Jay-Z spent some good time in Trenton, as you know.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so we had that public dialogue at the New York Public Library. And I was putting that pressure on him. I said, brother, you've been preoccupied with getting inside of the life of a gangster, of a drug dealer. And there's nothing wrong with that, because drug dealers are human. Even though they're doing dehumanizing things, they're still human. But Curtis Mayfield, see, when he wrote soundtrack for Superfly, he was a freedom fighter reflecting on drug pushers.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? And so Freddie's dead, and just listen to the lyrics of Brother Curtis's, the genius Curtis's soundtrack, and you'll see he stays in contact with the humanity of the drug pushers, but it's a critique of not just the drug pusher, but the system that produced him. And Jay-Z just haven't reached that level yet.
Man.
No, he ain't reached that level yet. He ain't at the level of Curtis Mayfield in terms of political consciousness. But Jay-Z is a lyrical genius. But he ain't. But you know, he just haven't reached that conscious. That's true for Lil Wayne's lyrical genius. But that Negro, as deep as he is, lyrically and artistically, he got some serious ways to go politically. But I'm sure he'll grow. He'll grow. He's written some powerful stuff on New Orleans, his native New Orleans, on Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still got to move toward Curtis Mayfield and the others in terms of political maturity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need among your generation, my brother. Now, you already have it, but your voice needs to be more widely circulated. You know what I mean? Not just Trenton, not just Jersey, not just America, but the world needs to take track and keep track of Anwar.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
And I was going to ask you, Dr. West, I'm interested in pursuing a PhD in public administration. If you had any ideas or tips on that field. I mean, I know it's not your field per se, but
No, I think it'd be a beautiful thing. You just want to keep your vantage point and your viewpoint rooted in poor and working people. But should you come to Princeton, you go to Harvard, go to Johns Hopkins, go to Columbia, any of those places would be blessed to have you. It's just that the dominant orientation of those places is much more of the elites than it is of the working people. But that's all right. You can learn the skills and keep your own viewpoint.
right.
See what I mean? That's what I do right here at Princeton.
Right.
I do not express the dominant perspective of Princeton University at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here to teach. Yeah, I know we got to run.
Okay, thank you so
my
much
brother.
for your time.
Yeah.